kalau lu mau jadi entrepreneur ya lu mesti bisa jualan kan.
Yes.
Lu nggak bisa jualan ya rada berat juga.
Iya. If you can sell an MLM product, I mean you can sell.
You can sell anything.
I know one public company, dia punya satu lantai di gedungnya, isinya aset nggak kepake semua.
Serius lu? Cuman benar aset.
Furniture, laptop, segala macam yang nggak kepake gitu kan. So it's only a problem after they bought it gitu kan. Kalau kita sih as a founder, thankfully so far we have outlived our expected runway. Jadi
outlive the expected runway.
Waktu awal fundraising kita bilang kita punya duit segini nih gitu. Nah, kita sekarang udah we're still there. Extending gitu kan.
Halo Nalar People, balik lagi dengan gua Ray. Kali ini gua kedatangan temen gua juga yang seorang startup founder. Startupnya namanya Bioma yang offering a unique rental model solutions buat bisnis-bisnis di Indonesia. Please welcome Arlo.
What's up, bro?
Thanks for coming, bro. Hari ini.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jadi gue penasaran pas lagi ngelihat bisnis model lu ini kan rental, dan ternyata lu tuh dari dulu udah mulai bisnis sewa-sewaan kayak gini
10
ya.
tahun.
10 tahun.
Exact, ya.
Kenapa sih ceritanya kenapa lu decided untuk masuk ke industri ini gitu?
Ya, so kalau 10 tahun lalu tuh basically the story was waktu itu istri lagi hamil anak pertama. And kita beli banyak banget barang bayi.
I see.
Gitu ya.
Yep.
So itu kan mahal banget. Terus kita tahu kepakainya cuma sebentar.
Bener.
So we thought, this is crazy. Is there not a better way? Gitu kan. And we thought one day at breakfast kita mikir mau nggak ya orang-orang kalau sewa aja barang bayi instead of mereka beli. Toh pakainya cuma sebentar.
Bener.
And we tested that out. Ternyata orang mau, and that's when we decided to quit our jobs.
Okay.
And we jumped full time to building Babylonia, which is a baby equipment rental marketplace.
Okay.
Tapi the main why is actually we believe that we have an opportunity to give access to more people. Karena it's not about your children having toys atau baby equipment. It's about creating the best environment for them to grow up in.
Okay.
And if we are through our ventures, through our effort itu kita bisa make more households a much better place for their children to grow up in, we would be very
Why not?
happy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, so berarti awal mulai berdiri itu karena lu ngerasa nih gue beli cuman belinya udah mahal. Terus kepakainya cuman sebentar.
Yes, and we see that ada banyak orang yang jadinya limited in providing the best environment for their children to grow up in. Now that was 10 years ago. Kita bootstrap Babylonia. We tried every different business model, mulai dari kita beli aset sendiri sampai marketplace, sampai kita ada acquire debt gitu kan. And in around 2001, there was an opportunity to expand that service untuk other product categories.
Okay.
That's how we got into the B2B rental equipment.
Okay. Karena yang Babylonia itu awalnya untuk straight to B2C ya berarti ya?
Yes.
Okay. Langsung ke new parents kayak gitu.
Betul.
Ya sih gue ngerasa banget sih waktu gue pertama kali punya anak juga satu barang-barangnya kan mahal banget kan. Dan gue kayak temen gue tuh bilang yang udah punya anak duluan, mereka bilang udah lu ngapain beli yang beli barang-barang baru, ini bakal kepake cuma 6 bulan, habis itu nggak bakal kepake lagi.
Iya betul.
Dan itu yang kejadian gitu kan. Cuman waktu itu pas kita pertama yang baru pertama punya anak gitu kan biasanya wah spend on everything ya, pokoknya paling bagus, perlu ini. Cuman pas
lihat rekening bank ya.
Udah lihat rekening bank,
saldonya
tinggal sedikit. Mahal juga nih barang-barang. Dan yang lebih nyeseknya lagi sebenarnya karena penggunaannya itu yang benar-benar sebentar banget gitu kan.
Iya, betul.
Dan itu dari situ juga lu ngerasain hal yang sama.
Exactly. Gitu. And kita melihat juga begitu kita serve our customers, kita melihat betapa mereka terbantu dengan itu gitu. Anaknya setiap bulan yang sewa setiap bulan tuh kayak anaknya dapat mainan baru setiap bulan gitu kan. And that same model basically kita coba apply untuk kategori produk yang lain, which is for businesses gitu kan. Businesses ternyata waktu kita tes, they have the same I would say problem, tapi for them it's more about cash flow management. Gitu kan.
Correct.
Semua bisnis punya cash, tapi it's a scarce resource.
Benar.
Cash yang mereka punya, mereka bisa pilih either invest in capex atau invest in acquiring customers.
Benar.
Misalnya gitu kan. So a lot of businesses yang akhirnya jadi customer kita, itu they are the types of businesses that say that rather than spending in capex, I would just save my capex, convert as much to opex, gitu kan. Focus that on customer acquisition.
Exactly. Ya. Tapi sebelum kita lebih jauh lagi nih ngomongin dia. Tapi lu waktu kuliah gitu ya, lu ada kepikiran nggak sih this business model, atau emang pada saat lu punya anak baru nih rental is a thing gitu kan?
So I've always wanted to become an entrepreneur dari SMA.
Right.
Jadi I've tried multiple business, started and failed in multiple businesses.
Finding your passion. Apa nih passion gue nih sebenarnya?
Iya kan. Jadi mulai dari I've done MLM, jualan buah, jualan susu.
Wow.
Segala macam deh kita cobain gitu kan. But I found that the type of business that is sustainable for me, meaning that I would want to work on over and over, is something that I believe can help other people, gitu kan. So there needs to be like a higher purpose to it. The purpose in this sense is to help provide access to more people. The how is through the rental business. Gitu kan. Tapi the mindset I have is that rental is a way to do it. Is there? We always need to explore other ways mungkin bisa dilakukan juga.
Iya. Jadi lu udah tahu nih, gue pokoknya jadi entrepreneur aja when you were in high school gitu ya. Pas uni lu ngerjain engineering ya?
I was kuliahnya di teknik industri. So engineering, mencoba gabungin antara engineering, industrial engineering dengan bisnis, tapi kayaknya nggak ketemu.
Oke. Jadi lu tapi becoming an entrepreneur selalu on the back of your head gitu ya, dari high school gitu. So makanya lu cobain segala macam bisnis, mau MLM. Gue lumayan kaget sih lu udah pernah MLM.
Itu waktu SMA tuh. Tapi I think it was great to teach salesmanship.
Of course.
Yeah, kan?
Of course.
So that is
actually apa namanya, kalau lu mau jadi entrepreneur ya lu mesti bisa jualan kan.
Yes.
Lu nggak bisa jualan ya rada berat juga.
Iya. If you can sell an MLM product, I mean you can sell it.
Gue pernah tuh jual waktu gue kuliah, gue jualan not exactly MLM ya, tapi kayak gue jadi kayak kontraktor untuk jualan apa waktu itu ya, subscription untuk listrik. Jadi gue tugasnya itu hanya untuk ngetok rumah orang. Terus
ini di Jakarta?
Enggak di Sydney, di Australia. Gue ngetok rumah orang, terus gue nawarin, lu kan udah make ini ya, provider ini. Lu sign up dong for another 3 years gitu. It doesn't, you're not gonna change anyway.
Yes.
Tapi that's itu. Tapi I think the experience yang gua dapet pas lagi ngerjain direct sales gitu, itu bener-bener deg-degannya, wah gila.
Dan it's valuable sekarang.
It is definitely valuable sekarang ya, udah bodo amat gitu. I've done the hard yard.
Dan anything you do actually, you decide to do, it requires salesmanship.
Exactly.
Gitu. Mau jadi pegawai negeri, mau jadi apa itu, you need to be able to sell what you're working on yourself. Gitu,
exactly. Nah, kalau misal kita balik ke tentang bisnis sewa ini, di Indo tuh gue ngerasanya kayak masih agak kurang gak sih yang namanya orang pengen nyewa sesuatu. Terus yang gue rasain tuh daripada gue nyewa, mendingan gue beli tapi dengan yang harga murah, terus tapi dengan kualitasnya pasti yang lebih di bawah gitu kan. Pendapat lu emang bener gak sih kayak gitu?
I think it's true ya, apalagi compared to Western markets, pasar sewa di Indonesia itu is not yet as big.
Okay.
Tapi in the past few years ini kita udah mulai melihat beberapa perubahan ya.
Yep.
For example, government institutions. Ada beberapa customer kita.
Oh wow, oke.
Mereka sebelumnya nggak pernah tuh kepikiran mau sewa furniture, mau sewa laptop gitu kan. Tapi udah mulai dianggarin. Say laptop instead of buying, sewa aja gitu kan. Ini awalnya sebenarnya started off with the big ticket items kayak mobil.
Oh,
dulu
okay.
mobil dinas pemerintah kan
Mesti
beli semua. Tapi sekarang
okay.
udah sewa semua gitu. And they're moving to smaller ticket items. So we are still at the very beginning of this transition.
Tapi ininya apa namanya trigger pointnya apa tuh kalau misalnya dia bisa berubah ke arah situ gitu?
So kayaknya kalau government ini ya.
Budgetnya yang kurang
so maybe it's more about management of assets.
Oh oke. Karena kalau misalnya lu punya sendiri, that means lu manajemennya ada di lu gitu kan.
Mungkin kalau lu bisa doing audit of government institutions, aset yang dibeli 3 tahun lalu kemana nih gitu kan.
Oh I see. Oke.
Kalau misalnya dia sewa, definitely kalau rusak kita yang provider sewa yang kita
dari Bioma ya.
Betul. So we will cover everything dan itu barang ya pasti ada di sana gitu kan, karena we have an incentive to keep track of it. Gitu. So I think that's one thing.
Oh that's a good trigger point as well.
Big companies yang duitnya banyak itu mereka prefer sewa karena they don't want the hassle of managing the assets.
That's right. Yeah. Managing the assets ini kan nggak cuman kayak benerin doang gitu kan, tapi kayak tracking siapa yang make, ada di mana kayak gitu kan.
You knock on any of the enterprise companies doors, ngomong sama bagian GA-nya, coba tanya mana aset yang nggak kepake, laptop yang udah nggak kepake. I know one public company dia punya 1 lantai di gedungnya isinya aset nggak kepake semua.
Serius loh? Cuman
furniture, laptop segala macam yang nggak kepake gitu kan. So it's only a problem after they bought it gitu kan. Jadi kalau ngobrol sama orang procurementnya, rental itu kalau di compare head to head sama financing pasti lebih mahal. Tapi after a period of say 1 year or 2 years nih orang procurement yang tadinya bilang oh ini mahal nih rental, bilang ke kita jatuh-jatuhnya ownership lebih mahal karena waktu rusak mereka mesti beli lagi yang baru gitu kan. Waktu service mereka ada loss of productivity gitu kan. So if you consider all the other aspects, jatuhnya rental jauh lebih murah.
Oke, iya sih. That makes sense. Karena gue tadi langsung ke trigger pas lagi lu bilang apa namanya asset management which is tracking kemananya kayak gitu kan, like it's a big hassle. Kayak company kayak Ledger Al yang kecil aja maksudnya kayak
it's not your core business kan?
Exactly.
Tapi it's important.
It is important, yeah, exactly.
Gue ada satu anekdot, one anecdote, a customer yang bilang bahwa dia beralih ke rental gara-gara this one time laptop dari ini startup ya, laptop dari yang dipegang developernya rusak, servisnya 3 minggu, ya kan, so 3 minggu tuh orang nggak coding, lo tahu gaji developer berapa gitu kan, so what is the cost of that, gitu kan, so,
itu yang kadang-kadang nggak ke input ya pada saat making decisions of buying.
Benar.
Oke. Nah selain dari sisi financial yang sewa-sewaan industri ini udah kasih kan. Ada lagi nggak sih impact positifnya gitu? Nah, let's divide it into rumah tangga sama bisnis gitu kan. Kalau misalnya rumah tangga tadi mungkin lu udah touch sedikit. Kalau misalnya lu punya anak dan segala macam, udah lu nggak usah beli barang-barang bayi yang harganya selangit itu kan. Lu bisa sewa 6 bulan gitu. Lu bisa sewa sampai dia udah nggak pakai lagi baru balikin kayak gitu kan. Nah, what are the impact positives ke mereka yang you can think of right now?
Okay, so if we talk about individual households gitu ya, it's asset management juga masuk ke situ. Tadinya you have kalau beli barang banyak numpuk terus jadi cluttered, gitu kan. Ini you can basically Marie Kondo your whole house gitu kan. Jadi nggak usah banyak barangnya gitu kan.
Belum lagi kalau misalnya yang gue kepikiran kalau misalkan yang newlywed gitu kan. Belum tentu punya rumah sendiri kan?
Iya, ya kan? Atau mungkin size-nya juga nggak gede
gitu.
banget.
Gitu. Tinggal di Jakarta gimana?
Segede apa sih gitu kan? So So not having to handle the clutter itu juga it's intangible tapi it's a huge benefit gitu kan. Terus the ability to provide things yang sebelumnya mungkin lu bahkan nggak kepikiran buat provide gitu kan. Ini jadi basically you're enabled to do so. Ada juga use case di mana orang pakai items itu untuk ngetes sebelum beli. So it's like a try before you buy. Kalau di Western market kan lu beli kalau nggak suka lu bisa balikin gitu kan.
Refund kalau
refund gitu kan. Di sini kan nggak ada. So rental is a good approximation towards to that gitu kan.
Kalau misal lu memang mau commit untuk beli.
Iya. Jadi lu bisa testing dulu sebelumnya. Terus kalau barang udah nggak kepake gitu ya, you have that clutter, tapi you also have the responsibility untuk dispose. Itu kemana tuh disposalnya gitu?
Gue sampai sekarang nggak pernah tahu tuh. Gue kalau misalnya beli misalkan yang gede-gede gitu ya, lemari gitu kan, udah bolong gitu dimakanin tikus. Ini kubungnya kemana ya? Terus gue buang ke tempat sampah depan rumah gue. Tukang sampahnya nggak mau ngambil.
Karena buat dia jadi biaya juga gitu. Dan nggak bisa diloakin gitu kan.
Exactly.
Nah tapi kalau di kita one asset itu utility-nya tinggi karena bisa dipakai oleh banyak orang. So typically one asset itu mungkin bisa bertahan 2 tahun.
2 tahun. Sampai itu bisa
2 tahun 3 tahun.
Udah nggak kepake lagi.
Artinya kan udah dipakai oleh banyak orang. Utilisasinya tinggi. So overall theoretically jumlah aset yang diproduksi, jumlah barang yang diproduksi juga berkurang gitu. And that minimizes the amount of things that go to landfills juga.
Oh, that's true. So there's ada impactnya lah untuk ke lingkungan juga
Yes.
Tapi kalau misalkan dari segi kita balik sedikit ya ke market Indonesia yang menurut gue masih belum teredukasi ya untuk sewa-sewaan ini. Lu gimana sih cara nge-convince mereka gitu? Karena kan yang biasanya yang kita lihat perbandingan harga itu yang biasanya paling itu, tapi kan kayak lu bilang tadi kan banyak intangible lain gitu. Lu cara ngedukasi market untuk service lu ini kayak gimana sih?
So I think word of mouth itu yang paling efektif ya so far ya. Yang jelas kalau gue lihat for example di in our business segment itu our retention rate is very high. Jadi customer sewanya jangka panjang. Udah selesai itu mereka perpanjang lagi atau nambah lagi. So we see that begitu udah nemu kliknya, people are addicted to it gitu kan. Dan spreading the word is about word of mouth. Kita mencoba of course all aspects gitu ya. Social media ada, direct sales juga ada gitu. But the best way to acquire customers is to have someone vouch for us. Gitu kan. Lu pakai ini nih gitu kan lebih enak gitu.
Tapi secara industrinya sendiri memang selain bukan dari bisnis ya, mungkin dari industrinya sendiri itu belum terlalu mature ya berarti ya untuk orang itu.
No, I think it's still early days.
Still in the early days ya.
Makanya kalau compare to the existing market di US, di US tuh ada this big furniture rental company namanya Court. It's owned by Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh wow.
So it's a very good business kan. If it's owned by Warren Buffett, that means it's a very good business.
It's a good approximation.
Kan? And they focus on B2B furniture rentals. So before di acquire Berkshire Hathaway, kita laporan keuangannya ada tuh kelihatan gitu kan. It's a very good profitable business. Di Indonesia, our market is as I said, it's not there yet. Tapi definitely moving. I believe it's moving towards that direction.
Directions ya. Nah itu statement terakhir lu mungkin a good segue for my next question ya. Tren kedepannya untuk industri rental ini menurut lu gimana? Akan picking up kayak di US? Apakah dengan Gen Z yang mungkin udah mulai mikirin mau nikah dan segala macam, mau punya anak dan segala macam, akan ada meaningful switch nggak sih?
So kalau industri rental itu juga tidak bisa dipisahkan dari I would say the financing industry. Karena selalu there needs to be a way to finance the assets. Gitu kan. Aset yang disewa itu nggak datang serta merta ada gitu tapi ada yang beli gitu ya, ada yang finance the assets. Di case of Bioma kita platform, jadi it's owned by third party.
Third party.
Jadi
So it's a marketplace for rental, right?
It's like a marketplace for rentals. Tapi our third party ini typically high net worth individuals. So mereka ada a basket of berapa ratus aset, mereka beli bayarin, terus kita yang manage sewanya for a revenue share gitu kan. Yang namanya financing source itu sangat tergantung dari interest rate. Ya kan, semakin tinggi interest rate artinya semakin banyak opportunity yang lebih menarik nih buat si yang punya dana gitu kan. Jadi kalau interest rate tinggi, definitely is going to slow down the growth of the industry. Betul. Tapi kita coba ngakalin dengan cara-cara lain. Misalnya kita kerjasama dengan principalnya. Jadi,
dengan yang punya aset,
yang punya brand, the manufacturer gitu. Kita ada partnership sama in a few product categories yang punya brandnya. Kita bilang ke dia, lu jualan lewat retail jago gitu kan. Tapi mungkin kalau lewat retail you don't have the DNA. Let us handle it for you. Jadi kita punya partnership seperti itu. Dan buat si brand itu jadi dia bisa masuk ke pasar yang tadinya dia nggak punya expertise. Dan dibantu oleh kita yang memang domain expertise itu,
sewa ya.
Dan buat dia bahkan bisa jadi gedein revenue share-nya karena tadinya mungkin punya kompetitor yang lebih murah atau apa gitu, jadinya ada produk offering yang lain yang bisa mereka
Jadi orang yang mau pakai brand itu ada cara lain nih selain outright beli atau nyicil gitu kan. Dengan sewa. Interesting. Nah, di startup lu ini kan di fund sama VC gitu. Nah, dan sekarang ya kayak lu tahu sendiri kan ini lagi winter.
A long winter.
Long winter gitu. Nah,
udah 2 tahun ya.
Waduh, udah. Kayaknya kita nggak tahu. That's probably my next question lagi. Cuman gimana sih cara lu ngatasin challenges di funding winter yang kayak sekarang? Tadi kan kayak lu bilang mungkin dari sisi supply kan ada some supply crunch kan karena dia punya different avenue untuk naruh duitnya di mana gitu kan. Nah, tapi untuk lu kan mungkin ini two folds, yang satu dari supply side, yang satu dari operational side gitu. Gimana cara lu ngatasin challenges di funding winter kayak gini?
Jadi kalau kita bagi dua ya, funding yang buat company level which is funded by VCs, and funding buat yang tadi operational. Asset level gitu ya. Untuk yang operational asset level it's just about kita udah deliver good returns for our investors. Gue baru ketemu sama one of my investors kemarin, dia bilang thank you for giving us the opportunity to make money gitu. Karena memang IRR-nya cukup tinggi gitu ya. So siapa yang mau invest di aset sewa just
bisa nih. Waduh, kalau misalnya ini boleh.
Iya. And itu it's a matter of word of mouth gitu. Memang the challenge for that is that kita tuh I would say it's not a common type of investment untuk beli aset.
Different class of assets lah ya.
Different class. So it takes educating gitu kan. Kalau on the VC side, I think it's industry level ya. Kalau kita sih as a founder, thankfully so far we have outlived our expected runway. Jadi
outlive the expected runway.
Waktu awal fundraising kita bilang kita punya duit segini nih gitu. Kita sekarang udah we're still there. Extending gitu kan. Tapi I've been bootstrapping I've been bootstrapping my previous businesses, so mungkin gue agak sedikit less stressed dan
karena lu udah kayak tadi lu bilang di awal kan lu udah ngerjain bisnis tuh sebenarnya of course pre VC funding juga lu udah ngerjain like a conventional business gitu kan ya, looking for business, looking for revenue, and then looking for profits gitu.
Betul. Jadi when we got the VC funding itu it's basically to fuel growth gitu kan. To penetrate the B2B rental sector and fuel growth in that gitu. Dan maybe the consequence of the tech winter sekarang, dan mungkin banyak startup ngalamin, jadi growth spendingnya harus dipangkas,
yep.
tapi growth targetnya sama gitu. How do you do that?
Exactly right, exactly. You have to grow your revenue, have a profitability.
Benar, harus double digit growth, harus profitable, tapi we're not gonna give you any more funding gitu kan.
I guess it's the situations that every startup founders yang sekarang lagi hadapin juga gitu.
Yeah.
Jadi sekarang ya you either you fight or you flight.
Yeah, and thankfully for us our business model is quite solid gitu ya. We make money from every transaction gitu. So we have that foundation to work on. Dan ya kalau kita one of my college friends gabung kerja bareng gitu kan di Bioma. Terus dia bilang kayak gini ke gua, dia kaget waktu kerja bareng gua karena dia bilang kok Arlo pelit banget ya ternyata. Iya, jadi memang harus pelit.
Emang pelit, harus pelit. Nggak bisa kayak gini terus, nggak bisa kayak gitu lagi.
Nggak bisa. Ini aja meja kantor aja kita pakai second.
Exactly.
Gitu kan.
Nggak bayar lagi.
Nggak bayar.
Iya. Nah, di sekarang kan selain funding winter ya, at the same time sekarang ini ada fenomena yang sangat menarik nih dengan race of AI kan, kayak gitu. Nah, gue dan gue ngelihat aplikasinya itu ada di sebuah industri, gitu. Tapi gue nggak kepikiran nih specifically untuk Bioma yang yang let's say it's a concerning about sustainability use case gitu kan. Apa ada nggak sih ininya use case-nya yang lu lihat di rental market saat ini gitu?
No, I think I agree bahwa use case AI ini for a wide range of industries gitu. Jadi kita juga dari Q3 tahun lalu, so Q3 2023 kita udah set aside a small team yang specifically looking into how we can leverage AI for our internal purpose gitu. So we developed AI tools for data analytics gitu kan. Definitely for copywriting kita udah pakai AI, design udah pakai AI, programming udah pakai AI gitu kan, developer udah pakai AI. So it comes at a time, I think for founders it's fortunate juga karena di saat tech winter dana terbatas, we have these amazing tools yang memungkinkan kita untuk operate a business with a very lean models, gitu ya. Yang kita nggak perlu burn as much. Gitu. So kita masih eksperimen with all these different use cases of AI for our internal process. How it will affect the rental industry, honestly belum kelihatan sekarang gitu ya. Tapi at the very least by us doing these AI experiments, kita bisa at the forefront of that. Jadi kita nggak tiba-tiba kaget, oh ini AI ubah semua gitu kan. But because the rental business is dealing with physical assets, gitu ya. So there are still limitations to AI di situ ya. So I would say that the use of AI in the rental sector it's making the business more streamlined, more efficient, and basically increasing the margins ya kalau kayak gitu. We have developed tools misalnya untuk identify apakah seorang potential customer ini punya kasus di mana gitu loh. So it's like a background check gitu kan. And itu kayak if that can increase our ability to spot potential risk, automatically it can increase our possibility to minimize losses gitu kan.
So it's like a
KYC,
credit scoring
tool, yes exactly kayak gitu. Di Indonesia kan credit scoring is not as robust gitu ya kalau dibandingkan di US gitu kan. So we have to be innovative in ways we can spot potential risk gitu.
Oke. Nah, tapi di yang lo lihat nih tren startup di Indonesia kayak gimana sih? Maksud gue kayak apa nih? What's gonna be hot? Do you think?
Okay.
Selain anything got to do with AI ya.
No. I think right now a lot of people have heard about AI.
Yep.
Very few have used it.
Yep.
Even fewer have worked with it on a daily basis.
Correct. Yep.
Gitu. So I still believe that there will be a lot of changes in the
technology
tech sector because of the use of AI tools.
Yep.
How it will unfold, I don't know yet.
Yep.
Tapi kita harus monitor.
Yeah.
I've already seen a few startups yang begitu LLM teknologi keluar, they scrap their back end terus diganti pakai LLM, gitu kan.
Yep.
So
there's no point of
keeping up with obsolete tech, gitu kan.
Karena at the end of the day, lu kalau misal keep doing what you were doing ya berarti lu wasting your resource untuk hal yang udah pasti yang menang punya. Kan?
Iya, betul.
Yang udah billions of dollars of research.
If it's better and cheaper to do that way, ya ngapain it's like a sunk cost kan yang udah pernah dibikin sebelumnya kan.
Exactly.
Tapi I also believe that having experimented with these AI tools the past few months, it gives people access atau the power to build out their own solutions gitu kan. For example, our small team tadi itu in January kita come up with 6 or 7 different products. Basically. For internal use gitu kan. Tapi they're products gitu kan. In 1 month. Gitu, 6 or 7, around 6 use cases in 1 month gitu kan. Dan kita we're just learning how to do it. I mean with the right approach, maybe individuals that can harness the power of AI tools, maybe they could build their own products and build their own businesses nantinya gitu kan.
Kedepannya gitu.
And that will definitely also affect the tech sector karena if one person can build a product, you don't need to hire a lot of people, you don't need funding. What will that say towards the VC market? So I think everyone is still trying to figure out how it will pan out. Gitu.
I think especially dengan market Indonesia yang let's call it out gitu kan masih belum as developed ya dengan kalau misalnya kita compare di US gitu atau di Europe gitu kan. Jadi banyak argumen yang bilang sebenarnya Indonesia itu doesn't need high tech. Low tech tapi implementasi di the right application based kayak gitu udah. Kita kayaknya kalau ngelihat kayak Gibran gitu kan, e-fisheries, kayaknya dia what's the technology, right? The IoT basically. Probably it's just enough to to serve his market gitu. And he's doing it very 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 nicely. Gitu.
So I think it's a dream. These AI tools are dreams for it's a dream come true for builders. For people yang memang want to solve problems. Karena you can actually solve problems yang tadinya mungkin it's not feasible economically to solve. Too expensive to develop the software for gitu kan. Tapi with AI you can develop it quickly. And you can implement that too. You don't need a large market for that. Tapi you can solve problems gitu kan. So there will be a lot of opportunities where all of these sectors yang tadinya untouched by technology jadinya bisa address their problems with AI.
Interesting. Because that's something that we were currently working on juga kan. Tapi for our particular use case kan. Untuk dari sisi accountingnya, dari sisi financial.
I think accounting, bookkeeping is one of those industries yang akan very much revolutionized by AI gitu.
Exactly, definitely.
You have all that data gitu kan. I mean we're using AI to develop competitive analytics tools.
Right.
We're using AI to give more insight on our financial performance gitu kan. Definitely if you can do that for your customers itu jadi value add yang tinggi ya.
Sebenarnya at the end of the day yang kita coba lakukan kita implement that solutions to
eventually reduce the cost.
Yeah.
So the solutions that we provide at the end of the day bisa dipakai sama small medium enterprises kan.
Yes, yang tadinya handholdingnya terlalu besar, jadi mereka bisa pakai gitu kan.
Jadi mereka bisa dapat output which is financial statements yang arguably nggak semahal kalau misalnya lo nge-hire freelance gitu kan. So do you think passion is good enough to start business? Gue belum denger nih passion lu nih apa sih sebenarnya.
So I think for me, I would say the silver lining between what makes me all the things that I do that makes me tick is that has to be for tadi a purpose yang lebih tinggi gitu ya.
Higher purpose.
In rental, I want to provide access to families to build a better environment for their children to grow up in. In the B2B rental, I want to be able to provide businesses with tools yang memungkinkan mereka buat succeed gitu kan.
Kayak lu provide buat ledger laptop nih. Sewa laptop nih.
Iya kan, jadi lu nggak perlu mikirin capex deh.
Iya, lu mikirin capex
saja. Nanti kalau misalnya ternyata with that, I mean for businesses kan cash flow is very important gitu ya. I mean if you acquire a customer now sama 12 months from now itu kan beda banget gitu ya. The impact is significant gitu kan.
Apalagi kebutuhan kayak MacBook Pro gitu-gitu kan gila udah mahal.
Mahal ya. Sedangkan
boncos juga sekali ngeluarin kayak 25-30 juta gitu.
Lu misalnya kayak 30 juta gitu kan. Lu bayar sewa sebulan ada kayak 2 juta misalnya gitu ya. You free up 28 million upfront. Dan dari situ whatever your customer acquisition cost is, you can acquire customers gitu kan. Hopefully it can cover your rental fee for that period gitu kan. If you allocate.
At least gue nggak perlu capex gede lah.
Nggak perlu capex gede, betul. So so back to your point, that is passion enough to start a business? Definitely to start. Maybe you need other things juga gitu ya. It would be great if you have experience, network. Some kind of industry insight yang mungkin orang lain nggak punya gitu. So to start something, passion is necessary, but you will need these other ingredients, I believe gitu ya. Tapi passion is, I would say maybe the word is required if you want to sustain something.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, kan?
Especially during this funding winter. Right?
Especially, I mean, every business lah.
Yeah.
Every business has its downs and downs.
Exactly.
Yeah, kan? And some ups. It's down, and then some ups.
Banyakan downs-nya kayak.
And then back to down. Every day is always a challenge. And without passion, you're gonna quit.
No, that's indeed.
Yeah. So this one VC friend of mine told me that this tech winter actually exposes the difference between the opportunists and the mission-driven founders, gitu kan. The opportunists udah nggak
bisa
bertahan gitu kan. There are some yang masih ada runway tapi akhirnya milih balikin gitu kan. And anecdotally juga the number of new founders nggak banyak sekarang, even though there are a lot of layoffs gitu kan. So kayaknya that the lack of passion is probably one thing. Atau maybe the passion was just to make money, which is not. It's
not that bad juga.
It's not bad. Tapi in this market there's no like ini kan. There's no easy way, I would say, to get there. Or it's much more difficult if making money is just your end goal.
End goal, bener sih. I think making money for me is it's the outcome of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
so for me, I think the reason why I've admired business and entrepreneurship dari lama adalah because by making money through what we're doing, it ensures sustainability of what we do. Gitu kan. If you go to if I could channel my passion through a non-profit misalnya, tapi I would need to raise money from donations gitu kan. But if you're able to sort of find that balance between serving your purpose and making money, that is very sustainable, and that's what I'm aiming to do.
So there has to be money generating enterprises di belakang setiap good deeds yang mau dikerjain gitu.
So well, not everything has to have like a money generator behind it. Tapi I would say if what you're building can have a sustainable source of revenue, you don't need to think about. I would say you don't need to think about its longevity gitu kan, much gitu ya. So I mean, I admire Patagonia as a company, itu kan. It's a social endeavor gitu kan. They have a good mission, but they're generating money to fund that gitu kan.
Exactly.
So, I think that's the right model.
Approach.
That's the right approach. Definitely, it's not the VC type approach karena it's a slow growth gitu kan. Tapi it's long term.
Okay. Nah, is it a good time today to start a business?
It's always a good time to solve your problem gitu kan. So if you feel that there's a problem that needs to be solved, I think the mission-driven entrepreneurs will find a way.
Regardless the situation of funding, regardless the situation of economy outside.
Exactly. And if you cannot find a way, maybe you should reconsider juga gitu doing that, karena eventually if you run a business, eventually you will find a time di mana there will be a lot of problems gitu kan. You have to work your way out of that gitu kan. But I would say now is probably even a very great time to start with new AI tools misalnya. And we mentioned tadi lack of founders raising money. That means if you have something that can really stand out, itu bisa jadi a hot property gitu kan.
Buat visi-visi untuk bisa masuk dan funding.
Betul. And a lot of great businesses are started in tough times. So
to name a few, Airbnb, Amazon.
Exactly. I mean, if you can survive in the tough times, I think you can thrive.
I think it's also a good learning period juga nggak sih buat yang emang wanting to be an entrepreneur gitu, karena pas lagi easy money, zero interest rate time, lu punya traction dikit di funding, punya traction dikit, padahal nggak ada it's a vanity vanity metrics. Langsung di funding kayak gitu. This nowadays cannot.
Tapi kita juga mesti acknowledge bahwa we are able. It's a privilege to be able to start a business in this market juga gitu kan. Karena for example my wife works a full-time job, so she's the breadwinner of the family.
Nice bro.
Iya kan. So I get to focus on swinging big. While she focus on the consistency gitu kan. So you have to look at your personal situation as well juga gitu ya. But if you're young, single, and
ready to mingle,
nggak punya tanggungan, that's actually the best.
Belum punya anak dan segala macam kan.
So you think less about the tanggungan, the effect that if you fail, the effect itu nggak as big ya kalau misalnya.
Kalau misalnya udah punya anak, terus tiba-tiba funding
mau sekolah gimana mereka, ya kan?
Harga sekolah udah nggak murah nih sekarang.
Exactly.
Tanggungan udah banyak. Jadi I think what you're trying to say, correct me if I'm wrong, tapi what we're trying to say is you start when you don't have much of risk. By risk means kayak personal tanggungan gitu. Lu belum nikah atau mungkin lu belum punya anak, jadi lu belum punya mortgage for example.
Atau the other way around, you have saved enough gitu.
Exactly.
I think most successful entrepreneurs are started their business in their 40s. So we're a bit too early here. That's why ya kan. Tapi wait till we reach our 40s kan.
Gue berharapnya 40 tuh udah di Bermuda gitu.
Hilang dong di triangle hilang dong.
Jadi jangan bermuda deh.
Or you can if you saved enough, you want to try something, you can manage your burn, you can manage spending, go ahead gitu kan. I think a lot of the people with experience yang gitu, mereka sukses because of their network, because of their experience gitu kan. It is still stressful to start a business, tapi at least lo bisa takar gitu kan. Nih gue mungkin mau coba setahun, gue mau coba 2 tahun gitu kan.
Iya. Ya, stressful udah pasti sih. Lu mau kerja gimana juga stres pasti ada gitu.
Dan biasanya yang kayak gitu tuh ya mereka udah stres kerja, pengen bisnis gitu kan. Nah itu juga oke banget tuh.
Yeah. Itu sebenarnya that's actually how Ledger Owl started at the beginning, karena gua waktu pertama mulai Ledger Owl juga gua kerja full time. Jadi Monday to Friday kan, jam 8 sampai jam 5. Terus karena gua di rumah udah punya anak, makanya gua mandiin anak dulu, terus kasih makan, dia tidur, baru ngerjain yang Ledger Owl. So it's always, makanya that's hence the name Ledger Owl.
Okay, interesting.
karena gue ngerjain awalnya gue ngerjain tuh malam-malam gitu.
Ini waktu di Aussie ya?
Enggak, waktu gue udah balik ke sini. Cuma ya kayak yang lu bilang kan, at the end of the day lu udah punya keluarga, lu udah punya tanggungan gitu kan, ya udah lu keep the day job. And then if you have a dream, then you have to start at night or whatever on the weekend.
Exactly. So that personal situation itu kan very hard to generalize.
Exactly.
So you have to look at your personal situation dan ukur sendiri.
Is
this something that you can take
how
on
that's gonna work?
Betul.
Tapi yang nggak kalah pentingnya menurut gue juga, you have the end game. Kenapa? Why you're doing this, right? Kenapa lu ngerjain ini ya? Karena for me, I wanna create something.
Yeah. You wanna create money juga.
Yeah, exactly. I wanna tambahan. So, bro, thank you banget udah datang ya.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you banget for
Such
datang.
a pleasure.
Yep. And it's really interesting to hear your story. And like I said before to our previous guest, this is not gonna be the last.
Yes.
Okay.
See you in season 2 ya.
Season ya. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.